Science skepticism has done Djokovic no favours. That's the piece that we've written off the back of last night's programme as well. Champ contracts COVID-19 withdrawals from Travellers Championship, so the golfers are starting to get it as well. Massive outbreak amongst Clemson, I think, in college football as well. They were saying that in the weight room, funnily enough, everybody heaving and sweating and gasping for air. Not a great environment for the prevention of the spread of a virus. Katie McCabe and Ruisha Littlejohn on coming out. If we even help one person, it'll have been worth it. The two Irish footballers were on last night speaking with Nathan, and Fabregas would have got a slap. Kilban on Arsenal in discipline. Fabregas would have got a slap if he'd said on the streets what he said on the field of play. So you can imagine how wound up people would have been by Cesc Fabregas back in the day. Where are you going first, Will?
Back page of the Irish Independent, Ger. A few stories here. One is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer ahead of the game between Manchester United and Sheffield United tonight, where two Manchester United goalkeepers are going to be playing against each other. We've got Henderson in goal for Sheffield United. He's been very impressive for them this year. And David De Gea, who's made 7 errors in the Premier League, which is the most among goalkeepers this season. But yesterday, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer giving his full commitment to David De Gea, saying he still believes he's the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. The picture they've gone for on the back page is Chloe Mustaki, the Republic of Ireland international, who's coming back from an ACL injury, and you can see her training there at the Sport Ireland campus. Two interesting stories just below the picture. You can see English football are now preparing to try and get fans back by October, and it looks like social distancing rules in the UK are going to be basically taken away very soon indeed. So the idea will be that the Rugby Football Union and also the Premier League will be looking to try and get crowds back in, including the RFU, who are hoping to have between 9,000 and 35,000 people there at Twickenham for the games this autumn. And they see that as hugely important for them from a financial point of view. And obviously they're hoping that the social distancing comes in. Similarly here in Ireland, that crowds will be able to go to the Aviva, both for the Republic of Ireland and also for the Irish Rugby Internationals. You see the League of Ireland at the bottom. This story continues to go on about trying to get some confirmation about the resumption of the season. Dan McDonald's story. The League of Ireland clubs want to know what's happening with the state support, which was pledged last Friday night, and how that money could be funneled down towards the League of Ireland. I spoke to a couple of managers at the weekend, Ger, and their hope was that the league could be back by the first week of August. I asked if that was optimistic, and they said they're down to probably 1 or 2 clubs at this point who are holding up the deal. And understandably, some of those clubs are the ones who paid their players, and they feel that maybe the finances should be spread around a bit more. And you've also got Ian Flanagan over on the right-hand side, who's the new Munster chief executive, who gave his first press conference yesterday with the Irish media. He had lots to say, but the one that the Irish Independent have picked up on is that he says the RFU have joined both England and France in opposing the idea of having a summer rugby season, which would run right the way through the summer into the November internationals, and they want to keep August free. So if that was to happen, the RFU and the provinces wouldn't be going directly up against the GAA's business end of their championship from next year on.
And why do England and France want to keep, I mean, they obviously don't have the GAA concern. Is it Premier League rivalry? Is it, what is it? I don't, because there's obviously Premier League the whole year round, essentially, apart from June and July.
Yeah, well, Bill Sweeney, who's probably had a lot to say at the RFU, I should say, chief executive, was saying that basically he wants a compromise whereby they would have a break window at the end of the summer. So the idea he has is he's happy enough, say, if the season was to start in earnest in January, but he wanted to finish by July, and then they would have a break period before they have an expanded international window. And something we'll probably see in some of the other back pages is the idea seems to be gaining some motion at the moment that there might be a 6-team tournament, which would be the top 3 from the 6 nations and the 3 big nations in the Southern Hemisphere playing each other year on year, which would create extreme elitism within rugby, which would be obviously interesting for the viewer. But imagine if Ireland were to fall outside the top 3 in the 6 nations and we were left looking in. So it seems we're heading in that kind of direction, but that seems to be England's idea, is that they want a break period before the next season gets back underway and the international window.
That's going to end up being South Africa, New Zealand and Argentina in the medium term, as Australian rugby is obviously not thinking that one through, lads. Right, here's the Examiner for you this morning. 1 out of 3 female players likely to skip 2020. This is the WGPA, so that's Gaelic football and camogie. Flanagan, Munster must shed match day revenue reliance. You've just been talking about Ian Flanagan, the Munster CEO. Players may be less committed post-pandemic, warns Morgan. So this is Tyrone's Niall Morgan, who says that players might be a little bit less committed when everything comes back. And then also, obviously, Robbie Keane, no longer the part of the managerial team at Middlesbrough after Woodgate got sacked, and the Ryder Cup are saying, no, this is definitely going ahead. I wonder how much pressure they're getting from Donald Trump to make sure that goes ahead. We'll see.
Back page of the Times Ireland edition, then you've got that World Rugby eyeing 6-team Super League story, which is written by Owen Slott, who's their chief rugby correspondent. And that idea is that World Rugby are thinking about having an autumn series which would involve the top 3 teams I mentioned from the Six Nations and the 3 leading Southern Hemisphere sides. It would essentially be an elite global league, which would be biennial, so played every couple of years, and the top 2 sides would potentially face each other in a grand final, and it would replace the present Autumn International Series in November. And they reckon that would be extremely lucrative if it was to happen, and they're hoping to sell a big TV deal on the back of it. You see Novak Djokovic, as you mentioned, saying sorry after his positive test. Harry Kane getting his first goal of 2020 after his injury last night when he scored against West Ham. And also they've got an interview with Gareth Thomas, who has been speaking to Welsh rugby legend about what it's been like living with HIV.
The Irish Times this morning, their Sports Wednesday section, Djokovic's positive test throws game into turmoil. That's Kevin Mitchell's piece from The Guardian. Missed penalty cost Brighton full point. We didn't even talk about Aaron Connolly's performance just yet. We might in a moment. Kane back on target as Spurs end their barren run. And police say banner stunt not a criminal offence. We were talking about that on the news round last night on Off the Ball. You watched the full game, I think, and Aaron Connolly played quite well.
Yeah, won the penalty. I thought he looked quite bright. I thought he was good when he came on at the weekend in that game against Arsenal. It was a delicious assist for the goal that won the game from Maupay coming from Aaron Connolly. He was rewarded with a start last night. I thought he looked really bright. He was at the heart of most of the good stuff that Brighton did during the game. Again, Leicester don't seem to have kind of quite hit the ground running since they've come back. Their form wasn't magnificent before the break, but they were held by Watford at the weekend and held to a 0-0 draw. Jamie Vardy is snatching a little bit as he tries to get back into a goal-scoring run. He didn't seem to be all that involved last night. Not entirely uncommon with Jamie Vardy. Sometimes he sparks to life in a game, but I think from a Republic of Ireland point of view, and this window is probably very important for Stephen Kenny, where players are getting game time. And he mentioned when he took over, he was hoping that maybe when this little mini season got underway, that some of his players would get more game time because of just the amount of games that come around. We're hoping that we see performances like this from Aaron Connolly, because on the performances he's put in that one game in the 20 minutes or so he played at the weekend, he looks like he's going to be right up there for a starting place for the Republic of Ireland come the autumn. Yeah,
looking forward to seeing that, what happens there. So you got the Mirror first next, I think?
I do. Sergio Aguero on the back left-hand corner here, his injury. They're reporting that he needs a knee operation after the scan he had yesterday. Man City still to confirm officially what's going to happen there. But if Sergio Aguero does have a knee operation, that would mean that he's a serious doubt for their Champions League games. They're due to play Real Madrid provincially in the first week of August, so it's a huge race for him to be back fit in that case, but that's maybe why he'd go under the knife now. What next? Robbie Keane loses his coaching job. Of course, Middlesbrough didn't even mention Robbie Keane when they put their statement out yesterday about Jonathan Woodgate, but all expectation, given that Robbie Keane's contract was due to run out next month anyway, is that he's now on the lookout for a new job after losing 2 in recent months. And Kane and Abel is Harry Kane scoring last night as Spurs closed in on the Champions League places.
Harry ever after is the Stars' take on that one, and obviously the Mourinho outburst was the rocket under his ass that he needed. Aguero and race to be fit is the same story you've talked about there, but Carlo Kane has an exclusive and says that new format for the hurling championship will be officially unveiled by the end of the week. Final plans are yet to be nailed down, but it's believed that a new Liam McCarthy Cup hurling format along the lines of the old pre-round robin provincial championship is on the table, with a second chance for counties built into the structure. The old format saw a knockout championship in Leinster and Munster, with the qualifier system guaranteeing all sides a second chance, and that a new inter-county football championship is also going to be made public on Friday. Is there any chance of an open draw, Will?
I get the feeling there's not, even though there seems to be a massive appetite for that to happen. Like, I would have thought in this 1 year where you could potentially do this is the perfect opportunity to go open draw on both championships, have maybe one round of qualifiers at most, and then see what happens. Because particularly for the football, 32 teams, if we were to assume that London and New York wouldn't be involved due to the international travel, then you basically have a perfect bracket for
31 teams. You've no Kilkenny.
No Kilkenny. So say if you let London in, then you can
let London in, yeah.
And New York are probably not going to travel over, realistically, or teams aren't going to travel to America because the travel ban is probably still going to be in place. And then you've got a perfect bracket for football. I think for the 1 year that's in it, it would have been really exciting to see it happen. But I think the provincial councils are determined that there'll be some kind of provincial championship before it gets to the All-Ireland, because that money is extremely important to them. And I think there's a balancing act to be found over the next 24 to 48 hours. All reports are that the Control and Competition and Games Committee are going to sit down on Thursday, and then we'll have that announcement at some point on Friday as to what's going to happen. But it seems the provincials are still going to be there. I'm intrigued by the hurling. If they do go back to the old school pre-round robin, and that it goes through to quarterfinals, semi-finals, and there's one round of qualifiers available outside of the All-Ireland series, I think he could have a really good championship. But I was, again, as a hurling fan, I was hoping we'd have an open draw, because I wanted to see the types of games like Wexford against Clare, and say games we don't see all that often happening. You're back to more the normal when you go back to the provincial championships. But again, I'm sure Munster Council were determined to make sure they'd have a Munster hurling championship.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So that is me on the Mirror. What's next?
We're looking at the Irish Daily Mail. Again, Rory Keane has gone with a different angle in terms of what Ian Flanagan was saying. Again, Munster have defended their position really in terms of what happened with James Cronin, but Ian Flanagan saying that they've learned lessons from the episode. He was of course handed that 1-month ban by European Rugby after he tested positive for the banned substances about 2 months ago now at this stage, which was ahead of his team's game against Racing 92. The story we talked about yesterday with Conor McKenna and the potential for that false positive test which happened last weekend. The comment piece in the Daily Mail today is that being hung out to dry in Australia could now convince McKenna to come home and play for Tyrone as opposed to staying with the Essendon Bombers. You've Harry Keane across the back of this as well, and as we'll see probably in the Racing Post in a few minutes, tributes have been paid over the last 24 hours as well to the former Grand National winning jockey, that is Liam Treadwell, who passed away. He was of course on board the 100-to-1 shot Mon Mum to win the 2009 Grand National. He died at the age of 34 yesterday.
The back page of The Sun this morning is You're the Man, and it's Harry Kane doing his Jurgen Klinsmann impression after his goal came in his 200th game. Picture of Sergio Aguero, surgery is the headline on that one, and Format Friday. So not quite the exclusive then. They also have it in The Sun here. Gordon Manning has the story saying that the details will be reported on Friday. And Jocks a Covidiot. We had the word Covidiot in our parlance for a couple of weeks and then it slipped off, but Novak Djokovic is making us feel nostalgic for when it was just Premier League footballers going to a party.
Meanwhile, back at the Guardian, we've got Burnley to show support for Black Lives Matter at Turf Moor. This is on the back of the banner which is behind the plane during the Man City game at the Etihad on Monday. Also, Jurgen Klopp has been speaking ahead of their game against Crystal Palace. Liverpool can't win the league tonight, but they can go a step closer if they were to get victory, with Man City set to play Chelsea later this week. And Jurgen Klopp says the disappointment of the night that was called Christanbul, where Crystal Palace destroyed Liverpool's last chance when they were seemingly on course for the title, has actually sparked massive change at Anfield. And he said across some of the interviews that he's surprised that his team are 20 points clear of Man City. He expected the Premier League title race, understandably, to be a lot closer than it's been. And there's a comment piece again about Novak Djokovic and potentially his eyes being opened up to reality by catching COVID-19.
The Telegraph have fury at joke government ruling after sport lockdown is extended. So this is, I didn't realise this was happening. Tried to tune out of the madness that has been Boris Johnson's government and the stuff that they've done to their own people. But anyway, Boris Johnson's decision to reopen pubs, bingo halls and cinemas before the return of club cricket, swimming pools, gyms and leisure centres last night provoked a furious backlash against sport, with the government, across sport, with the government accused of risking further unnecessary damage to the health of the nation. So you can go and get pissed, but you can't have a swim. They're really handling that very well, aren't they? They've done so well. They've done a remarkable job, unbelievable job across the UK when it's come to their handling of COVID.
Back page of the Herald, you've got again Ole Gunnar Solskjaer talking about David De Gea, saying he's the best goalkeeper in the world despite the mistakes. Solskjaer again defending his keeper after Roy Keane had a huge go at him last weekend for the goal he conceded to Stephen Bergwijn against Spurs. Robbie Keane should take a step up, is an editorial on the Herald in page 43 today. And then you've got Jurgen Klopp again commenting on the fact that he's extremely surprised. He's called it unthinkable that Liverpool are in such a position with 8 games to go in the Premier League season. And John Aldridge is predicting that Mo Salah's return to the team tonight, which is expected. Himself and Robinson are both expected to play against Crystal Palace. He reckons that's going to change them dramatically in terms of their attacking intent when he comes back into the team. Yeah,
his form was very successful in terms of scoring goals, but he looked kind of patchy in games. Again, I suppose that's a great talent to have when your strikers aren't playing well, they're still scoring. The Irish news for you from my perspective, my last one until we get to the OTB Sports app. Do we have an Irish news this morning? Not sure we do.
I can tell you what's in the Irish news if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Conor McKenna is on the back page. It's Carol Kane's story, which is talking about the all clear for the Tyrone man after that false positive. You can probably see it on screen now. And Nicholas Walsh's comments on OTB AM yesterday about the fact that some of the criticism was very extreme about Conor McKenna. You've got Kasper Schmeichel getting the credit for his save, which wasn't a particularly good penalty from Neil Maupay last night, but it saved Leicester's blushes somewhat. And then there's also the story on the back page about what's happening with the Northern Ireland Football League, which has been ended early after no agreement was found in terms of how they could conclude the season.
And then I'll do the Racing Post for you here this morning, and it is a picture of Liam Treadwell racing in shock after death of national hero Liam Treadwell. Leading jump jockey Richard Johnson and Tom Scudamore led the tributes to Liam Treadwell yesterday following the Grand National winning jockey's death at the age of 34. Four-time champion Johnson said Treadwell was an all-round top man, while Scudamore described himself as sad and empty and stressed the importance of the help available to those in racing who are struggling. Johnson said, "I'm completely in shock. It's very hard to put into words. He was a fantastic lad, liked by everybody. He was an all-round top man and great fun." We obviously send our condolences to his family as well. If you want to get in touch this morning, you can WhatsApp us 0879 180 180. Let's have a quick look at what's on the OTB Sports app for you now. When you open the feed, obviously you land on your own personalised home feed, so it depends on what particular sports you pick. You can always change that as well up the top right-hand corner. I had death threats. Stephen Ireland still hopes for international return. That's the story this morning. Stephen Ireland has spoken to The Athletic and wants to come back and play for Ireland. There's also the OTB Brief, our morning daily podcast that you can subscribe to and get your hit of all you need to know before the show starts. And then you can head over to OTB Sports Radio and listen to the show every morning. You can hit play and the audio plays if you change apps, or indeed you lock your phone, which is obviously something that had been a big request from our listeners out there. And all our latest videos there for you as well. And the OTB Podcast Network for the latest Off the Bench podcast is available right now. Cliona Foley in conversation with the WGPA chairperson Maria Kinsella, talking about the return of Women's GA and why the response from the LGFA has been disappointing. Right, 9:04, 9:05 this morning. On Friday at 12 o'clock, we're going to be giving you another chance to win €2,000 in our new game show, Know Your Football. We added another grand to the fund as nobody won last week. You can register at the following link, quiz.otbsports.com. That's quiz.otbsports.com. Then simply log in just before 12 o'clock on Friday to play along. Know Your Football is brought to you in association with Paddy Power. Check out paddypower.com for their great offers. And as always, gamble responsibly. Irish boxer Eric Donovan is going to join us next for the latest episode of our Culture Hall of Fame. First though, let's go back to last night's football show and hear from Irish internationals Katie McCabe and Ruisha Littlejohn, who spoke to Nathan about the experience of making their relationship public.